The greatest national security challenge that we face is the partnership of aggressive authoritarian regimes seeking to undermine our global leadership. The larger, longer-range threat, of course, is China, with a real economy. But the greatest short-term danger comes from our peer nuclear power, Russia, which is conducting a savage war of conquest to subjugate Ukraine in Europe and would like to restore control at a minimum over all the territory of the former Soviet Union, which happens to include 3 NATO allies. Ukraine is the place where we can and must deal a decisive blow to our adversaries. If we help Kyiv defeat Putin in Ukraine, we prevent further Russian aggression to the West and send a cautionary message to Xi to lay off Taiwan. It would also make it harder for Moscow to enable further Iranian aggression in the Middle East, a key factor in Hamas's assault on Israel and the Houthis' attacks on global shipping. What does this mean for U.S. policy now that Congress has passed the aid bill? First, the administration must identify what is at stake in Ukraine, clearly. The problem is not a war in Ukraine, but a nuclear power seeking to subjugate Ukraine and then to move further west. 2 things flow from this. First, we need a policy of containment for Russia, a position endorsed by representatives from 10 think tanks here on Capitol Hill in early February. The place, again, to defeat and contain Moscow is Ukraine, a large country fighting for its right to live free as proud Ukrainians. Stopping Moscow there does not involve American soldiers. If our need is to contain and defeat Russia so that we can enjoy a free society allowing people like that who don't understand but have a clear point of view to speak, yes. So, providing $40 billion a year in aid to Russia, to Ukraine, is not a gift to Ukraine. It is the smart way to defend the United States, to defend our security, our prosperity, and it represents roughly 4% or less of our defense budget. That's first. We need to understand we have a problem containing this nuclear rogue power. Secondly, we need a clear power towards Moscow's war on Ukraine. The administration has frequently said we would stay with Ukraine as long as it takes. That's not good enough. We need a clear signal to defeat Russia to enable victory in Ukraine, for Ukraine. What does this look like? The first order of business is to enhance Ukraine's defensive line so Russia does not add to the incremental gains when American military aid was in doubt. They are right now bombarding Kharkiv, 30 kilometers from Ukraine's border with Russia. They are also making incremental gains around Kharkiv. Lately, the administration has moved smartly to get ammunition and artillery to Ukraine, but it needs to do much more to protect Kharkiv and other Ukrainian cities, Ukrainian critical energy infrastructure from Moscow's massive aerial assault. This means more air defense systems, Patriots and French SAM-Ts. Ukraine has 3 Patriot batteries. They need at least 9 more. Our allies, some of them can help fill this void. There's a second dimension to this problem, coming from American reluctance until mid-last year to back sending of F-16s to Ukraine, even from European countries. Allies are now on track to deliver about a brigade's worth of aircraft. Ukraine needs well over 100. With that, they could stop the successful glide bombs Moscow is using to pound Kharkiv and other places in Ukraine. Those F-16s will be essential to Ukraine's offensive in 2025. The White House needs to decide now to arrange the transfer of that many F-16s with all the necessary avionics and missiles. Kyiv will choose the target of its next offensive, but Moscow's greatest achievement in his 10-year war in Ukraine is the seizure of Crimea. That's also his greatest liability because Crimea needs to be supplied via the Kerch Bridge and by the land bridge from Donbass, occupied Donbass, to Crimea. If we give Ukraine the necessary weapons, the longer-range fires, the artillery, the tanks, the airplanes, they can seriously disrupt, if not deny, supply of those weapons to Ukraine, forcing Ukrainian troops, Russian troops to retreat from South mainland Ukraine and posing a severe political problem for Putin. We need to do this. A strong policy to promote Ukrainian victory would not just involve sending the right weapons Ukraine needs, but we need to change our rules of engagements. Allow Ukraine to strike Russian tower targets in Russia, which are currently pounding Ukraine. Ukraine, again, Kharkiv is less than 20 miles from Russia. Russian forces are massed within Russia along the border. Russian airplanes flying in Russian airspace are pounding Kharkiv as well as Odessa. That's a different story. We need to allow the Ukrainians to strike back at them. We must also organize ourselves to meet the current security challenge. I have about 1 more minute. We need to ramp up our arms production. Arms, we learned in Ukraine that major power war is heavily arms intensive. We need that not just to help Russia lose in Ukraine, to help Ukraine defeat Russia, but so we can deal with a confrontation with China or Russia. We also need to be flexible in the way we run this war. We need a senior official responsible for overall coordination of our policy on this war, meaning ramping up arms production, meaning making sure Ukraine gets the weapons it needs, meaning making sure the American government can react promptly to changes on the battlefield. Our long obsolescence rule that Ukraine cannot use American weapons to strike into Russia should be gone now that we're watching what's happened in Kharkiv. Hopefully it'll change, but we need a senior administration official responsible for that. Finally, Congress. Congress has been strong pushing the administration to do more. It got the aid package passed. But we need greater flexibility in the way we appropriate for weapons. American weapons, even new ones, are facing challenges with electronic warfare in the battle space. We need to, in the appropriations process, agree to changes in weapons design to meet those challenges on the battlefield. All right. Basic point, we've done this before. We defeated massive armed aggressors in World War II. We can do this now. Thank you.